Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Engage 8 podcast. I am Josh with my co-host Mike. Today we are doing the recap for week 10 of the NFL season. We're going to go to every game up to Sunday Night Football. We're going to discuss that Lions game all the way from Thursday with the Bengals and the Ravens. And we'll talk about Monday Night Football on our next episode where we talk about college football and get you ready for the next week of the NFL. But we will start today's episode talking about that Thursday night football game between the Bengals and the Ravens. That's one of the best Thursday night football games I've seen in a long time. It was such a good game. Both quarterbacks threw 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Joe Burrow looked like his beginning of the season self, even though they were still losing in the beginning of the season. He looked more like himself, and Lamar has just been doing this all year at a great rate. He's been phenomenal. Neither team was able to run it too well. It was impressive to me for the Bengals defense there, which I've been saying they've been playing better over the past few weeks, which they need so badly. They're just having trouble finding wins here, and this is one they had to have, and unfortunately they couldn't get it. But their defense played really, really good against the run. Their secondary still got torched, but they were able to stop Derrick Henry to an extent, and that's just really impressive in itself. Jamar goes for 264 on 11 catches for 3 touchdowns. He was just an absolute monster. There's a dude in our fantasy league that had him and Lamar this week, so
Oh,
that's just ridiculous. But the game really changed on that Chase Brown fumble. Cincinnati was up 2 touchdowns in the second half with the ball. Chase Brown fumbles, and then the Ravens score on the rest of their possessions after that fumble. They score 4 straight touchdowns after that, and that was kind of the difference. I think the absolute right direction for the Bengals was to go for two. I agree with that decision completely. You're on the road. The Ravens had 4 straight touchdown drives on you, so you're not able to stop them by any means. The Ravens probably go down and score regardless, so at least here you're giving yourself a chance to win. Maybe they go and shank a field goal, or they're not able to get in field goal range, and then you win by 1 point. That's perfect. Here, though, if you kick it, you're giving yourself the opportunity where they drive down, and I mean, they can just win it, and you don't even go to overtime. So I completely agree with the decision there. Obviously, it doesn't work out, and that's unfortunate for the Bengals, but I think it was the right move overall. But for Baltimore, that's a huge win versus a really desperate team. They committed 11 penalties in this game and still got the win, so that's an impressive win to me for Lamar and the Ravens.
was a very impressive win for the second time this season. They're able to come from behind on the Bengals and kind of just steal a win from them. Like you said, Lamar and that offense scored touchdowns on like their last 4 possessions to win the game. 197 yards passing and 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter alone for Lamar Jackson. He was phenomenal late in the game. The offense was moving. Derrick Henry had a quiet day, only has 68 yards on the ground, still does get his touchdown, but with Lamar, that offense just got hot. They tend to do that every once in a while and just looked unstoppable. The Ravens' pass defense, again, especially against the Bengals, struggled. Joe Burrow torched them for 428 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jamar Chase has another, I think, top 10 fantasy performance of all time. He did it last year. He does it again this year. Seems like he does that every year. They were able to move the ball well. It's just the defense was unable to get it done, especially late. I agree with the going for the two, especially with how great that Ravens offense had looked. Either the Ravens were going to go down and get a field goal at the end of regulation, or you're completely putting the game on the hands of a coin toss. If the Ravens get the ball, they're most likely going to go down and score, or you luckily win the coin toss and you can win the game. But this Ravens team, they're sitting at 7-3 now. The offense is phenomenal. Their defense needs to figure out a little bit of the pass defense because at points this season it has been very, very bad. But I think that could just be a testament to how great this Bengals pass offense is. So great game from Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. Again, they just got to kind of run the table now because really you only kind of have one more loss affordable at this point. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for Cincinnati, their 18th remaining strength of schedule left at 500. They got the Steelers twice, and then their next hardest games on, according to Tankathon right now, are the Chargers and the Broncos. So who's to say? I mean, they could definitely run the table and get one. They have to split with Pittsburgh though. They have to get one of
They
those,
have to, yeah.
preferably the one at home. But they've been pretty brutal at home. But moving on here to the Germany game, Bryce Young and the Panthers get their second straight win, defeating the New York Football Giants 20-17 in overtime. It was a huge game for Chuba Hubbard. He went for 153 and a touchdown in this one. He's been really, really consistent all year. He's had a couple games where he wasn't great, but overall he's been pretty consistent. He's been a bell cow for them. Daniel Jones now has pretty much come back to earth ever since Andrew Thomas got hurt. He was having a really good season. Andrew Thomas was at tackle, and it was helping Daniel Jones out so much, and it made this Giants team look pretty solid because they have a pretty good pass rush. Their secondary and their linebackers ain't bad. They're not anything special, but they're not bad. And then Thomas goes down. All of a sudden, they can't run the ball anymore. Daniel Jones looks bad again, and he has 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in the last 5 games. So he's really started to struggle now. Giants late comeback in this one helped them out to get to overtime, but once overtime started, they turned the ball over. Tyrone Tracy fumbles that absolutely buried them there. And Bryce Young goes down there. I don't even remember. Did they take a knee and kick it? Did they run it and kick it? I don't even remember for
I
some
think they
reason.
just ran the ball.
It was a long day of football yesterday, but I had much more hope for this Giants team, but they have completely fallen off a cliff now, unfortunately, with that Andrew Thomas injury. But hey, they currently sit at the number 1 pick, so if all else plays out, they can have a shot at whoever they want in the offseason.
They could, and a lot of Giants fans were celebrating the Tyrone Tracy fumble, although he was really going through it. He had a solid game. He's been a very good kind of revelation for this Giants offense. 103 yards, averaged almost 60 yards a carry. This is his first year as a full year as a running back here in the NFL. Daniel Jones, bad game again. Throws for 2 picks, doesn't get a touchdown. It sounds like he could potentially be benched for the rest of the season. Giants don't want to even risk him getting hurt and having to pay all of his guarantees in his contract. So we'll see how that goes. Brian Dable didn't seem too confident Jones would start this week. For the Panthers, just what a win. Back-to-back wins now for Bryce Young. Their defense was very good in this game. That's what shocked me the most. I thought the Giants would be able to move the ball and score, but that wasn't the case. The Panthers defense was great. Chuba Hubbard on the ground, like you said, was fantastic. They did not have um, their running back from, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Jonathan Brooks. He was not, he was activated, but he did not start in this game. So we'll see if he starts next week. But great win for the Panthers and Giants. At this point, you're looking at the tankathon, looking for that first overall pick, whether it's Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders, looking for a new quarterback because I think the Daniel Jones era should and is finally over.
Yeah, actually, I was wrong. It's the Giants are sitting at 2 now. The Jacksonville loss, even though they're both 2-8, they have a significantly worse strength of schedule. Four, hold on, I just want to see something. 478 is Jacksonville's strength of schedule. That's like one of the low. That's like one of the lowest in the entire league, and they have the worst record in football.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. But moving on here to Bills and Colts. The Bills win this one 30-20 in Indianapolis. Josh Allen throws a couple picks in this game. His legs were able to make some plays, though. He ends up with 50 rushing yards in this game, second on the team. Colts secondary is continuing to make plays at times. They've been a lot better over this back half of the season here. They made some plays in this one, forced some turnovers, and they were able to keep themselves in the game for most of it. JT had a great game in this one. He helped the offense so much when that you just can completely see the difference in this offense when he's playing at his best and when he's not having a good game. And he had a great game here. He played solid. Flacco's 3 picks though just really buried the Colts. Not much they could have done with him turning the ball over so much. We'll get to the Lions later, but Pierce, Downs, and Mitchell, they combined for 17 catches in this game with Michael Pittman out. That was huge. You see, Mitchell got what, 6 in this one? He had a decent
Yeah.
amount. Yeah, he had 6. Josh Downs, reception machine. He's a little Amon Ra. 7 for 72 in this one. He's looking really, really good. I think he's probably going to be a weapon there for a long time. And then Pierce is continuing to be that deep threat. But the Bills kept giving the Colts chances early in the second half, but the Colts offense just couldn't capitalize on those chances. And that's early in the second half when they absolutely had to. And then down the stretch, the Bills end up getting it done. So solid win for the Bills because they didn't play their best ball really at all in this game, and they still go out there and they get a road win against a team that was 4-5 going into the week. So I think that's a good win for the Bills, but they got a huge one next week.
Yeah, nice win for the Bills, continuing to get that lead in the division and basically put it away. They get a pick six on the first 3 plays of the game, basically set the tone for the game. The defense for the Bills gets 3 interceptions and a fumble on Joe Flacco, sacked him 4 times. Sean McDermott's defensive unit was great in this game, held the Colts to basically nothing, especially in the second half. The offense for the Bills didn't have to do too much. They just moved the ball when they had to. Josh Allen didn't have his best game, threw 2 picks, some great plays by Kenny Moore and EJ Speed. But just disappointing game from the Colts again. Joe Flacco was horrendous as kind of expected going into this game. He has not been good. He had a good game early in the season, kind of inflated his stats, and ever since really hasn't done too much. Those for 2 touchdowns, pretty much late game. And the first one was Jonathan Taylor getting down the field for him. He was just bad. He's not good. Anthony Richardson gives this team a better chance to win. Jonathan Taylor was phenomenal in the first half, had over 100 yards rushing in the first half. The offense was at least moving before Joe Flacco would throw the interceptions, and then Colts just kind of abandoned the run game when they got behind and didn't really run the ball with him at all in the second half. And it was just disappointing to watch. Shane Steichen doesn't stick with the run there. Good game from Josh Downs. AD Mitchell is his best game as a rookie too. Like you said, he was great with Pittman out. It's the quarterback controversy is the whole thing for the Colts. Anthony Richardson gives the team a better chance to win. The whole way they're going about the situation, I can't believe that it's Steichen. I refuse to believe that it's Steichen. I don't think he's this stupid. The stuff he says to the media just makes zero sense and is just not logical. I feel like this has to be either Chris Ballard trying to save his job for another year and build a new team, or it's Jim Irsay completely overdoing his control. And if it is Chris Ballard, I don't know why Jim Irsay hasn't stepped in either, but just really, really disappointing. And I just want it to be over.
Steichen standing on it though.
I know. Well, I mean, he might have to if it's Chris Ballard telling him to do it, or even if it's
Yeah,
Jim Irsay.
yeah,
But Joe Flacco starting next week, so we get an electric matchup of Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers.
yeah. That'll be great. Battle of the
Thank God they
40 year
flexed
olds.
that one out of Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, my God, the NFL realized they fucked up flexing them in last time. They're like, oh, we got to get them the hell out.
Well,
I
we
didn't
had
know.
that every team gets one game, so prime time or
Well,
standalone game.
is that? I thought it was just every team gets a Thursday night.
No,
Every
every
team
team
has
gets a
to get a standalone
standalone.
too.
Yeah, no, not every team gets a Thursday night game.
I thought every team gets a Thursday night game.
No, it's just every team gets a standalone.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, Colts don't have a Thursday night game this year.
Really?
Our
Okay, I thought
only
it.
our only non-12 o'clock game was supposed to be the Jets, and
Oh
they switched
wow,
back
I
to the
thought every
Titans.
team always got one. Oh, well, I guess not. But we can move on here to the Saints beating the Falcons 20-17. A lot of punts and missed field goals really just lost Atlanta this game. Younghoe Koo's worst game of his career. It's easy to put this game on him and the special teams unit, but you have to get in the end zone. Like that's how you solve those problems. When you're missing kicks, you just have to go for it on fourth down and get in the end zone. They couldn't do that. Atlanta's secondary has been a concern going into this week. We talked about it in the preview for this game, how much of a concern their secondary has been, despite having a ton of talent and really being great on paper. And they were great last year. This game really elevates those concerns. Derek Carr, those for 269, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was pretty solid in this game. He didn't even have to throw it a ton. His completion percentage wasn't great, but he was solid in this game. The Atlanta secondary just did not look good. Atlanta's only two good offensive possessions in this game resulted in points, but they were stalled for the rest of the game. There's just nothing they could do offensively, and you're starting to see these games from the Falcons. They'll have a game where they look like they're top five in offense in football, and then they'll have a game where they just look lost. And this was one of those games where they just looked lost. This and the Seattle loss for me are just pretty inexplicable for the Falcons. I just don't understand how they lost either of those games. I know it's tough to play in New Orleans, but we saw the Broncos go down and play in New Orleans against a shitty Saints team. I know it was Rattler, but they still dominated that Saints team. And this Falcons team is significantly better than the Broncos, in my opinion. And I just don't understand how this happens. I know you can't do football math like that, but that's just comparing two teams that they played on the road. Derek Carr looked pretty good in this game overall. Like I said, I think he's starting to get back in his rhythm a bit, but this Atlanta secondary has been shaky. If you would have told me before this game that Alvin Kamara would have 55 rushing yards and they won, I would be shocked. They usually are leaning on him. They didn't have to a ton in this game. And Atlanta, their next three, Broncos, Chargers, Vikings, I think they got to go win two of those games.
Yeah, I think they do. This is a really rough loss for the Falcons, in my opinion. This was a game he kind of had to win. You said it, Young Hoku has his worst game of his career, misses 3 kicks. He was not good, especially the kick late to tie it. Defense for the Falcons in the first half was terrible. We saw MVS break open a couple big plays. He had 2 touchdowns in the first half on deep throws by Derek Carr. That we hadn't seen Derek Carr throw like that since week 1 or week 2 in the season. But in the second half, the Falcons defense was a lot better, held the Saints to only 3 points. But like you said, Young Wei Koo missing the kicks hurt. Got another good Bijan Robinson game from the Falcons as he gets 116 yards on the ground, adds 2 touchdowns. Jake London does play in this game. Him and Mooney both have good games, getting at least 90 yards. So great there. But the Saints they fired Dennis Allen during the week. They got the firing the coach boost that I was a little worried about. Darren Rizzi had his offense moving in the first half. Kamara gets 109 total yards. Wasn't great on the ground, but he's a dual threat running back. He adds it in the air, and good win for the Saints. They do have the third easiest strength of schedule, I believe, left in the NFL. So they're sitting at 3-7, pretty much dead. But if there's a little glimmer of hope for the team with the worst salary cap situation, it's that they at least have a semi-easy schedule and maybe win out. Who knows? I doubt it, but they get one here.
The Browns were on bye this week, so I don't have a smooth way to transition this quick point of a Cleveland team, but Emmanuel Clase is a Cy Young finalist.
Yeah, I know he was gonna win it too if it wasn't for
Yeah. I mean, I
Skubal.
don't. They don't take into account the playoffs. I don't think,
No.
but I mean, I think you kind of have to.
I mean, I don't know if he gave up more than like 3 runs until
Yeah, I know. And
the
then he was
playoffs.
horrible in the
Yeah.
playoffs. And I mean, you got to give it to Scooble. You got to.
Yeah,
And
it
Seth
will be
Lugo's in there too. All one division.
essential. Yeah.
That's wild. But
Any White Sox in any awards?
no, I don't know.
Answer no.
No, they were all over the trade deadline though. They're
Yeah.
all their players were on the block, but that's about it for that, unfortunately. But moving on here to the Steelers and Commanders. Steelers win this game 28-27. I was so impressed by the Steelers in this game. I will admit I'm going to brag when I'm right about things, but I have to admit when I'm wrong. I was wrong about keeping it Fields in for Russell Wilson. I mean, we both were. We both came on here and I don't even want to rewatch that pod, but we were saying how it was so dumb to take Fields out. He was on a heater. Russell Wilson in 3 games, 737 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick. He's been really good. Steelers offense, 30.3 points per game with Russ, 20.6 with Fields, and that defense has been so good all year, and we're really seeing the difference here. Commanders were a much better team in the red zone than we expected them to be. With the past few weeks, they've really struggled in the red zone. They were 3 for 3 in this one. Definitely was a recipe for success for them. Steelers' ability to stop the Commanders' run game, though, was huge. The Commanders have to get Brian Robinson back. He's been out for, like, I think 3 or 4 games now. I think it's 3. And they're a different team with him in there, so he needs to get back for them. I know he put on social media because everyone's like, why the fuck aren't you playing? He was like firing back at fans and stuff or something on social media, but I hope he's back soon. He's so good and he's great for this team. Steelers went down 10 early in the third quarter in this game, but they responded with a 14-3 run to end the game. Steelers could have won by more if it wasn't for that bad fumble. Who was it? Warren? I believe it was Warren. Let's see. Fumbles. Yeah, it was Warren. It was like inside the 10 or something. That killed them. It looked like it was going to be their death sentence in this game, but it was not. They still end up winning by 1 point. Both these teams are legit, in my opinion. I think they can both win playoff games, and being able to go into Washington and get a win despite almost shooting yourself in the foot was very impressive to me from the Steelers.
Very impressive win from the Steelers. Mike Tomlin coming off of a bye week is great. He's even better going against a rookie quarterback. It's another win there. The defense didn't have the greatest start against Jane Daniels and the Commanders' offense, but really clamped down late in the game. In the fourth quarter, the Commanders only had 16 total yards. Steelers had the couple turnovers, but they got the ball late. Russell Wilson gets a great throw to newly acquired Mike Williams for a huge touchdown to take the lead with 2:22 left. Russell Wilson only 50% completion percentage, which is incredibly important in today's NFL, I guess. But he was great, threw for 3 touchdowns, does have the winner reception, but overall was very good. They didn't have the best run game, but you get a nice win. For the Commanders, Jane Daniels was going against one of the better defenses in the NFL, one of the best you'll see all season, and he played solid. Uh, just later in the game, that Steelers defense kind of got his number. Only 68 total yards in the final 27 minutes of the game. So just I guess a little bit of a learning point for this Commanders offense. Defensively for the Commanders, they were solid. They gave up some yards, but they forced 2 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Their offense was just unable to give them much help there late in the game. It's a close loss to a very good team in the Steelers, so I don't really put this as too much of a knock on the Commanders, but I would like to see them beat some of these good teams that they play.
I think completion percentage is important.
No, I know. I mean, I think it's important, but for some quarterbacks, it matters more than others.
We're also on couldn't be on farther ends of the spectrum as far as our teams and completion percentage.
Yeah,
So
I
I think we might view it a tad bit differently, but yeah, okay, we can move on here. I said to the Vikings beating the Jaguars 12-7. I said I'm going to admit when I'm wrong. I'm also going to admit when I'm right, and I feel like I'm right about Sam Darnold and this offense. They haven't looked good in weeks now. I'm not going to come on here and say I'm not going to finish this with a good win for the Vikings. There's no chance I'm doing that. This is a bad game for them. They went against Mac Jones and the Jaguars, barely beat them 12-7. They don't even score a touchdown in this game. This is a Jags offense that has gotten exposed from teams like the Browns, who beat them, which is wild, with Deshaun Watson when they were at their absolute worst. The Patriots, who beat them, or did they beat? No, they beat the Patriots, but the Patriots offense looked fine in that game. I just, I just don't see it. I don't see it right now with Sam Darnold in this offense. He throws 3 picks in this game. Last 4 games, he's 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Quiet game for Justin Jefferson here, which I think he's going. He's. I expect him to have great production no matter who his quarterback is. He's just that kind of receiver. Quiet game for him. TJ Hawkinson comes back, 8 catches in this one. He is back on his volume receiving ways that he was last season with Kirk here with Sam Darnold. Minnesota was a staggering 0 for 5 in the red zone in this game. They just got down there and Sam Darnold turned the ball over and over and over. If they were playing versus most quarterbacks in the NFL right now, every starting quarterback for sure, and then probably a decent amount of backups, they'd lose this football game. Luckily for them, they were playing against Mac Jones, and this Jags offense was also brutal in this game. The Vikings defense is legit. I've been saying that. It's their offense that I don't think can win them a Super Bowl and makes them not a contender. And there's 2 teams in the NFC right now who I think are absolute frauds for the records. The Vikings are one of them, and I'll get to the other one soon. But yeah, it looks like for the Jaguars, it looks like Trevor Lawrence is going to be out for a pretty long time. But their season's over anyways. Like we said, they currently have the number 1 pick. Vikings absolutely have to start playing better. They have, luckily for them, they have the Titans and the Bears in the next 2 games before they have a tough stretch. So they got to take care of business and win those 2 games.
Yeah, they have to take care of business. I know the other team. I know what you're going to say. The other team that you think is frauds. You're going to say a team from out east, but I think that team's better than this team. The Vikings. I agree. I think they have a good defense. Their offense, it's just really streaky. I mentioned the stat a couple weeks ago that they were one of the best teams in the NFL in scripted drives, and then outside of the scripted drives, they really struggle. And when you're able to stop this team on their scripted drives, or their first 2 possessions in the first half, or first possession coming out of halftime. If you're able to stop them, then you can really slow down this offense, and we saw that again this week. Sam Darnold throws for 3 interceptions. They were able to run the ball. They got 88 yards out of Aaron Jones, 38 out of Cam Akers, but just couldn't get the ball in the end zone. Like you said, they need to be better there. John Parker Romo in his first career NFL game, I think he's from the USFL, scored all 12 of the Vikings points. So congratulations to him. Big day for XFL and USFL kickers
Big day.
yesterday.
Big day.
The Vikings defense, like I said, it was very good in this game. They held the Jags to only 143 yards of offense. They did get 3 sacks, got 2 interceptions off of Mac Jones. So maybe that's not the most impressive, but Mac Jones, first game, starting with Trevor Lawrence out with an AC joint sprain. He could be out for, it seems like, a while. Didn't have a good game. Last 3 possessions of the game for the Jaguars were all turnovers, 2 interceptions, and a fumble. It looks like Doug Peterson's times in Jacksonville was just coming to a sad end.
I think the Vikings are better than the other team, but I'll get to that later. Bears lose this game to the Patriots at home, 19-3, and oh my God, this is heaven for me right here. Truly, the Lions are 8-1. They've won 7 straight games, and the Bears are absolutely collapsing in the most hype they've had in an offseason in a decade. This is unbelievable. They're so bad offensively. They have the worst O-line in football, and they're injured, so they're even more of the worst O-line in football. Caleb gets sacked 9 times in this game. He's up to 37 on the year. That's the most in football. The coaching staff and the offensive line deserve a ton of blame, but Caleb hasn't been good either. Like the times where he's had protection, he hasn't been good. He's missing guys on short routes. You know who he's kind of looking like. You know,
Who are you gonna say?
Anthony Richardson a little bit. He's missing those short routes, and he's like completely missing them on the like any out route, any drag. He's just missing guys. And those are plays you can't miss when you have your few plays of protection for the entire game, and he's continuing to miss those throws. My favorite stat from this entire game, the Bears had one drive in this game with more than 21 yards.
Yeah, well,
That's ridiculous. I mean, they had no run game too, which is a complete death sentence for a team that can't block, have a quarterback that can't throw right now. And I was very vocal in the offseason on here and in my private talks with my friends. I think Caleb Williams is a really, really good quarterback, and I think he's going to be a really good quarterback in this league. I see him being a top 10 quarterback at some point in this league, but I will not put it past the Chicago Bears to absolutely ruin somebody's career. So whether it's in a couple years on the Bears when they get no line and a better coaching staff, maybe he's going to be better then. If he's not better then, he'll be better on the next team he's with. So I still have confidence he's going to be a good quarterback, but he hasn't played good, and the entire rest of this offense, including Shane Waldron, including Matt Eberflus, all the way up to the McCaskies, is all awful. And then these deadly receivers haven't really had a chance to make any plays with what they've been given. Yeah, I mean, the jokes about run, throw a screen to DJ Moore on 3rd and 10 is like it's legitimately what they do. Like it's actual plays they run. It's crazy. They did it on like 3rd and 13, and it got blown up for like 6 yards or something. It was crazy. But I guess I'll talk a little bit about the Patriots here. It doesn't really matter, but their defense played a lot better since the Gerard Mayo comments and then Bill Belichick firing back. They played some pretty bad offenses though in that stretch, so I don't know how to believe that, but I will say Drake May, he throws one pick in this game, but Drake May's legit, man. I actually think he's really good. I know he hasn't had crazy stats, but just what you see, given he's playing with literally the worst wide receiver core in the NFL and the Patriots. So you got to give him that. His O line isn't that good. Ramondre Stevenson's fine, but I mean, that's not much for him. He has significantly worse resources than Caleb Williams has with the Bears, and he's looked better than Caleb Williams. So I'd probably have him. He's either 2 or 3 on my rookie ladder right now for quarterbacks. uh, Bo Nix and him, and then I'd probably put Caleb for how they've played, not how I view their career. I think Caleb will at least be the second best quarterback out of this class, probably.
yeah, just
Bears are
really
dead.
oh yeah, Bears are one of the dead teams. Just a wild game to watch. I thought the Bears would at least have some sort of pop smoke, but 2 weeks in a row now where the Bears have come out and just looked like a dead team. We saw it against the Cardinals; they were horrendous, and they somehow managed to look worse this week against a New England Patriots team that is way worse than the Cardinals. Drake May has a solid game. Ramondre Stevenson was solid on the ground as well. Offense just did what they had to do. Got a lot of field goals. Looked pretty fine. It was just the defense for the Patriots versus the offense of the Bears. Bears offense only gets 142 yards of total offense. Patriots had tied a franchise record of 9 sacks on Caleb Williams. Just absurd. Shane Waldron should have been fired already. The fact that he wasn't is kind of absurd. That was very crazy. Caleb Williams, like I said, he took 9 sacks, but he does have to get the ball out quicker. Sometimes he's holding on for too long, but this offensive line between injuries and coaching just all around are terrible. The Bears have a very hard schedule for them coming up. They've gone 2 straight weeks now without scoring a touchdown. That's the first time in 20 years for the Bears. Just an all-around embarrassing performance from the defense to the offense. Shane Waldron should have been fired last night or this morning. He wasn't. Same with Eberflus, but he's still there. And if he's there after this game, I'd expect him to be there for the rest of the year. We saw, I don't know if you saw on ESPN Chicago this morning, they were interviewing Eberflus, David Kaplan, big Chicago guy. Eberflus's connection kept going out, and after the third one or so, he never returned. And Kaplan said, "Coach, your cell phone is as bad as the offense right now." So
Yeah.
that kind of just describes Chicago at this point. So
Yeah, they're bad.
King Poles does it again, though.
Yeah, King pulls us again. He didn't just completely luck into that Panther stray or anything, but it is what it is. My power just went out there. I think I don't know
Yeah, I
what
know.
the
I
hell
saw
just
that.
happened. My entire lights flicked off, and then my LEDs turned. I don't know what the hell that was,
The
but
Wi-Fi must have stayed secure though somehow.
yeah, that's what I was worried about. But I guess we're good. So we can move on then to Chiefs beating the Broncos 16-14. Chiefs continue to get so lucky, and they're sitting at 9-0. So what can you really say? We're talking about a team that's sitting at 9-0. I think that personally, I don't like. I know there's people online that are just ripping them. How are they not a no? They're cheating. It's whatever. But I think they're playing like a 6-3 team. I don't think they're
Yeah.
playing like people are acting like they're playing at like a 3-6 clip and they somehow got 9 wins. Like they're still playing like a really good team. Like if they were sitting at 6-3, we wouldn't be viewing the Chiefs any different. We'd still say, oh, it's the Chiefs. They haven't looked great, but they're 6-3. They find a way, and now they're sitting at 9-0, and they're in a completely fine spot. And they're absolutely going to lock up that number one seed. In fact, I'd like to say it here: the Chiefs have officially locked up the number one seed in the AFC.
Wow.
I think it's you can call it. We've seen enough votes. You can call it.
Um, I mean, in their schedule, they got the Bills next week. That's a huge game. I could see the Steelers, or I mean, the Steelers on Christmas Day.
I mean,
That could be
they
a sneaky game, or at Denver. But yeah, that's only three Texans. Yeah, I mean,
they still get to
I
play
see them
Raiders,
stealing some of those games.
Browns,
Three
Panthers,
losses.
Panthers. Like
Yeah,
I don't know, I don't see it. But um,
the Ravens
block.
have to win out.
Yes, exactly. So it's pretty tough to imagine that happening. But a blocked kick wins them this game. Bo Nix was pretty solid in the first half, though he dwindled a bit in the second. No run game for Denver, as expected. This Chiefs run defense continues to be so good that is they're playing at a 9-0 run defense right now for sure. The Chiefs were abysmal in the red zone though, 1 for 4 in this game, very uncharacteristic for them. Chiefs offense just looked very odd this year. They like can't do shit on first and second down, and then third down comes along and they just get it done over and over and over. And if they don't get it done, they kick a field goal, and they do that enough times to win the game. It's just what happens for them week in and week out. But it's going to be interesting to watch them go into Buffalo next week. Like we said, it's a tough place to play. They go win that game, and I don't even know. But it's funny to sit here and critique a 9-0 team. But if you throw the records away, I still think they look like the fifth or sixth best team in football overall. They legit have 4 hard games left on their schedule. Like I gotta hold on. I want to see. I want to make sure I get this exactly right. Okay, so I'd say Pittsburgh, Buffalo, the Chargers, and Houston.
Yeah,
I'd
and
say
the
those.
Steelers.
I said them.
Oh, oh yeah, Pittsburgh. Yeah,
Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Chargers, and Houston.
yeah.
And can they go 4-0 in those games? I think they absolutely can. It's not out of the question that they can go 17 now. It's not. And they haven't even looked that good.
Yeah, I'd love for them to go 17-0 and then get absolutely stomped by Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. That'd be
That'd
cool.
be
But
great. Or at the end.
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
love it.
or at
I
the
would love
end.
it at the end.
Oh,
Little Giants moment.
little Giants moment from Jared Goff. Yeah, I don't think that Jared Goff and the Giants are the same as Jared Goff and the Lions are the same as the Giants. I think the Lions. I don't
Yep.
think they'd be favorites in that game. I don't know though.
Against the Giants from
No, no, Chiefs versus Lions in
oh,
the Super
oh,
Bowl.
oh, I thought you were saying who would be the favorite between the Lions and
Like the
those old
Giants were
Giants.
definitely
Yeah,
underdogs against
they
the
were big, here
Patriots.
big. I think the biggest dog to ever win.
Yeah.
All
Where I think
right,
the
let's.
Lions would be right there with the Chiefs.
You
I think
think the
that'd be
Lions will be favored in that game?
I think it'd be a
If it's
very,
played
very
today, they
close
are.
spread.
If it's played today,
Yes.
the Lions are favorites.
Yeah.
But you got to assume that means Patrick Mahomes had a little bit of a run in the playoffs, and then the hype is through the roof. I don't know. They were underdogs last year. I think it's like damn near a pick 'em.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think
It's a
it's damn
pick.
near a pick 'em. I mean that's the dream Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean actually I'd
I
rather
was gonna
not
say,
play against Patrick
I
Mahomes.
think
But
you'd rather play
honestly,
someone else.
I'd rather play them than the Ravens though.
What about the Steelers?
I'd rather play the Steelers.
Really?
I'd definitely rather play the Steelers. Yeah,
That'd be dangerous.
yeah, that'd be
Um,
crazy. But we you talk
I
about
gotta
Chiefs
talk about
here.
this game quick. Broncos played a good game in this one, maybe deserved to win. Move the ball well to get into field goal range there in that last possession, just get the kick blocked. Their offense was good at points. It was just in the second half, didn't have too much, only 68 total yards in the second half. Need to be more consistent, but this Chiefs defense is one of the best defenses in the NFL. And with the magic or whatever they have on their side, they will continue to get it done. If one aspect of their team, like their offense, wasn't great in this game, the other two step up and win the game for them. Defense was great, and special teams blocks a kick from the Broncos to win the game. So, uh, Chiefs are just in all three phases of the game. They're one of the best teams, and you got to win at least 2 of the 3 normally to win a game. So, Chiefs continue to do that 9 times so far this year.
Okay, moving on here to the team that the Chiefs beat in the Super Bowl. The 49ers win 23-20 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rough first game back for Christian McCaffrey, but regardless of his production, Purdy looked pretty comfortable this entire game versus a weak Bucs secondary. 49ers secondary impressed me in this game a ton. They held Baker to his worst game yet this season, which he's been on an absolute tear no matter who his receivers are. And the 49ers secondary has been a little bit questionable, but they come off a bye and they look great in this one. A muff punt kept Tampa Bay in this game. It gave them a free touchdown to make this game a lot closer than it probably should have been. And Jake Moody missed a ton of kicks too in this game. But I say the same thing as I said for Atlanta. Like, score touchdowns and that doesn't happen, Debo. Like, get in the end zone and that doesn't happen. So that shit was all wild. I mean, that was just wild. There's nothing else to say about that. That was wild. But yeah, they got to get in the end zone, and that doesn't happen. But he does end up. He had a better day than Young Waku with. Or no, he missed an extra point, so maybe not. But, what did he finish? He hit a game winner, I guess. So
Yeah, kind
so
of
yeah, he definitely
got
was
us
better
get
than Young
back.
Waku. Yeah, it was the opposite of Young Waku. But Bucks are a scrappy team. They stay fighting in these games. Like I said earlier with the Vikings and the other team I'm going to talk about, who I think they don't reflect their record at all, in my opinion. I think they're kind of frauds for their record. I'm not saying frauds overall, but frauds for their record. I think the Bucks are the opposite of that. They're at 4-6, and the Bucks are better than 4-6. Like, it's kind of ridiculous that they're there right now. The 49ers, they're above 500. They look to make a push to the playoffs here. The Niners haven't looked right all year, but they're definitely still a playoff team in my eyes. Like, I think they're definitely still going to be up there in the running. I think they still are in like the top five for betting odds at the Super Bowl. They got to still be up there, I bet.
I
They
hope
started
so.
so high, but um, San Francisco is the fourth hardest schedule remaining, though. So they're gonna have some games coming up here against. Hold on, who are their easy games? Their easier
They
games. You said what?
they're in a pretty tough division, so that's gotta
Yeah,
and they're just gonna eat each
definitely.
other
But
alive.
and they still got to play the Lions and the Bills from and the Packers from other
Yeah.
divisions. Their easy games here are the Dolphins, the Bears, and the Seahawks. And divisional games are never easy. I know the Seahawks games at home, but and the Bears and Dolphins should probably be easy work for them. But yeah, um, the Niners I think are still going to be up there in the playoff race. The Cardinals weren't playing so good. I'd say the Niners are probably going to come and win this division, but I think it's between those two right now. And still, the Rams after they win tonight, going to call my shot here.
Yeah, I'm trying to see futures. I guess the 49ers are sixth in futures behind the team that you think's a frauds. Bills, Ravens, Lions, and Chiefs. So they
Really,
get
they're below them.
yeah.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
I think it's believable,
If they
but
play in the playoffs, the Niners are smoking them. Like they're legitimately smoking them.
I like how we're just teasing them like they're a villain here.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious who we're talking about at this point.
Yeah. Brock Purdy has one of his best games of the season so far, threw for a season high 353 yards in the first game with McCaffrey back. McCaffrey doesn't have his best game on the ground, but just the threat of him being there and his dual threat like McCaffrey, who wasn't great in the run game, he makes up for it in the pass game, gets 6 catches for 68 yards. Joanne Jennings was great, 7 catches for 93 yards. And we saw Ricky Pearsall get his first NFL touchdown on a big 46-yard play. Good for him after everything he's been through this year. It's just a shock that he's even playing. The defense for the 49ers did a solid job. The Buccaneers are still missing all of their weapons. Really, it's Baker Mayfield throwing to Kate Otten, and that's about in the running backs out of the backfield. Rashad White, he has 6 catches for 39 yards. He was solid. Buccaneers defense continues to be one of the best defenses in the red zone. 49ers had 3 trips to the red zone, only came away with 1 touchdown. Buccaneers defense, solid. Their next 3 games are against the Giants, Panthers, and Raiders. If this Buccaneers team wants to make a run for the playoffs, I think they have to win all 3 of those games. And we'll see how they do after that. After that, they have uh, the Chargers, Cowboys, Panthers, Saints. So this Buccaneers team right now, they look like they're maybe in a bad spot, sitting at 4-6, but in their schedule, they have a lot of winnable games left, and I still see this team being a playoff team, especially when they get Mike Evans back.
Yeah, I think they have the ability for a playoff team for sure. I hope they just don't drop one of those games they need to win because
Yeah,
that is
I
what will
mean,
kill them.
they have even if they drop one of the games, I can still see this team I guess 7 losses. Yeah, they kind of have to win. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
especially in the NFC right now, so they have to win out,
mhm.
unfortunately. But
But I mean, all of these are winnable. Giants, Panthers, Raiders, Chargers, Cowboys, Panthers, Saints.
I mean, you'd think
I don't
you
think it
think they
gets.
go undefeated in that stretch.
I don't think it gets much easier than that. I don't know what their strength of schedule is, but
Might not be a bad future on them to make the playoffs then, because you're gonna get
no.
great odds on that for them to win out 6 in a row.
Yeah, that's especially. I mean, Cowboys will not have Dak for the rest of the season, so that game's not going to be tough. It's the only one there is the Chargers.
Yeah, that's it. Honestly, is it at Chargers?
Yeah,
Okay, that's kind of sucks. You got to go across the country, but still, like
but I think going into that game, they're gonna hopefully be off 2 wins.
feeling
Uh,
good.
Good and knowing
They
that
got a
if you win
bye,
this game,
right?
you're putting yourself at a great week.
They got a bye coming up too, I think.
This week, yes.
Okay,
So
so
they get a bye going into the stretch.
that's perfect time for them. Yeah, I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, there's going to be a team in the playoffs that is not better than them.
I agree. Their
That's
odds to make the
100% what's going on.
playoffs here. Where's the Buccaneers?
I mean, they made easy work of the team I want to talk about here.
Plus 255 for yes, minus 330 for
Oh,
no.
I kind of wish it would be more. I
I
kind
mean
of,
that yeah, $5 to win 17.75. Maybe after the bye week that'll get a
yeah,
little
they might get
better.
better odds after the bye week. But speaking of the Chargers, we can move on to them here at home. They win 27-17 against the Titans. Will Levis was back, and he was solid in this game. Just 5 incompletions, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He wasn't anything special, but he was way better than he was early on in the season. Only 13 touches for Pollard in this game, significantly too low for Tennessee. He's been running it great all year. Tennessee's in general been running it pretty good all year. They just haven't been able to pass the ball at all. But he only gets 13 touches in this game. That didn't make much sense to me. Chargers completely played their game in this one. They ran the ball 39 times to 18 pass attempts. They played great defense all game. Yeah, I was very impressed by the Chargers in this one. They were able to move the ball versus defense, and I know this defense is a little bit statistically overrated, but overall, I think they're still solid defense. Their pass rush with Arden Key and Harold Landry has been solid. Linebackers are a little but their secondary has been solid this year. Scoreboard makes this look way closer than it was. The Titans did score a late touchdown. I was hoping they were going to go for two and cover in this one as my power goes out for a third time now. Jesus, bro. I got the remote on deck this time. But yeah, the scoreboard makes it look way closer than it was. 7 sacks for the Chargers defense too, who are one of the best in football in my opinion. They're just a completely well-rounded defense, and when they're running the ball like this, they're one of the better teams in the AFC. They're definitely a team in my opinion that can go win a playoff game because of how well coached they are and how surrounded they are among defense and running the ball and just hard-nosed football. So my opinion could not have changed more about the Los Angeles Chargers than it was last year to where it is now. They're one of my favorite teams to watch in the league right now.
Yeah, what Brandon Staley did to this team was absolutely ridiculous. It shows how bad a bad coach can really hurt a team, but it also, I guess, shows how great of a coach Jim Harbaugh is. Maybe he's still stealing the other team's signs. I guess that's TBD. But he was continues to have this team looking very good. Like you said, the defensive line had 7 sacks. Tui Pelotu has 2. Bud Dupree has 2 sacks as well. And offensively for the Chargers, Justin Herbert just efficient, 14 for 18, 164 yards, not too much. The secondary for the Titans has been good at slowing down quarterbacks, but a touchdown and no picks is very solid on the ground. They're able to get 145 yards. So they spread the ball out a lot. Lad McConkey with only 2 catches. Will Dissly with 5. Quinn Johnson has been solid. He gets another touchdown. Just solid all-around performance from the offense. Didn't have to do too much. Their defense was great. Will Levis throws for 2 touchdowns, no picks, 175 yards. Like I said, he was sacked 7 times, but didn't throw an interception for the first time this season. So that is a sign of improvement. The offensive line got dominated. He was in trouble. They weren't really able to run the ball against the Chargers. So just this Titans team, you kind of know where you are at this point. Brian Callahan has not been a great head coach. We haven't seen Levis take that step forward that we wanted to see. It's been pretty much 2 steps backwards. His confidence hasn't looked great, but hopefully this is a step in the right direction, but still not great. Calvin Ridley has another good game, though. 5 catches, 84 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Had a nice 41-yard touchdown. So this Tennessee team, they're fighting for the first overall pick. It'll just be interesting to see if Will Levis will be the quarterback of the future or if this is coming to the end for him.
Okay, moving on here to the team that we've been waiting to talk about with the Eagles winning 34-6 against this horrible, horrible Cowboys team. The Eagles moved to 7-2. I'll start with them. Let's look at who they've beaten. They beat the Packers week 1 in Brazil, where Jordan Love got hurt. Then they beat the Saints.
Jordan Love played the whole game though. Jordan Love played the whole
He was
game.
still hurt. I mean, he's been playing hurt all year, but um, Saints barely beat the Saints. The Browns barely beat the Browns. People forget that game. The Giants, who are one of the worst teams in football now. The Bengals, really bad, except for this week. The Jags, horrible. The Cowboys in this current state, horrible. So I mean, we're looking at their wins. I'll give them credit. The Packers win's a good win. I'll even give them credit for the Bengals win because they're desperate. But the rest of them, they don't get any credit for. And I don't think they're frauds completely. I don't think they're like not a playoff team. I don't think they're the best team in their division. I still think it's Washington. I think when they play Washington twice in the coming weeks, including this Thursday night, which we have been blessed with these Thursday night games the past
Oh,
couple of weeks, but I think they're going to get humbled on Thursday night at home against the Commanders. But I think this team is a wild card team. I think they're somewhere in that 5, 6, 7 range of teams in the NFC. I don't, even if we're just looking at all the teams, not division wise, I don't think they're better than the Lions, Commanders. I know they beat the Packers. I don't think they're better than the Packers. And who else? 49ers. I still think the 49ers are better than them. I think they're right on par with the Cardinals and the Falcons and
Bucks.
Bucks, I guess. Yeah, I think they're right
I
in
think
that
I'm
tier.
I think I'm putting them above all those teams.
And if they play the Bucks tomorrow, I would hammer the Bucks. The Bucks own them.
That's
That's
true.
just a fact. But this
At this point
this
this season, yeah.
the secondary is just on and off for them. Some games they look good, like they looked good in this game against a team that wasn't trying, and you saw it with Cooper Rush and Trey Lance. And they look good this week. And then there'll be a week where they have to play against a good receiving core and they'll look horrible. And Vic Fangio, I think, has done a fine job given what he has to deal with in the secondary and the defense in general. I think he's done a fine job. But this isn't a defense that's going to go win a Super Bowl. It's not. And I know people were probably saying the same shit about the Lions last year, whatever. But that's just currently how I sit with this team. The difference is like, I think they have a great O line. They're getting Mailata back this week, which is going to be great for them. I think they run the ball really well. Saquon's been one of the best backs in football. But do I trust Jalen Hurts with a bad defense to be able to go compete for a Super Bowl right now? I don't. And I definitely don't see them as the fourth highest odds to go win the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts in this defense. I just don't see it. He was efficient in this game, but he did throw a pick. AJ Brown continues to have a great season. He's been phenomenal for them. When he's in the game, they do look like a different offense completely. I will say that. They were 4 or 5 in the red zone against this Cowboys defense. That's really, really, really struggled, but they were fine in the red zone. Dallas turns it over 5 times, and that, of course, just gave them no chance to win this game. And like I said, Lance and Cooper Rush were brutal. It's going to be a long end to the season for Cowboys fans, but I'm not. I'm not apologizing for it.
It's going to be a long end. Kellen Moore goes back to Dallas and kind of dominates with his offense. They didn't have to do too much with the Cowboys only scoring 6 points, but Jalen Hurts gets 4 touchdowns total, 2 of them on the ground, 2 of them in the air. He was very good in his return or in this game. Saquon Barkley has a solid game on the ground. Offense just didn't have to do too much. AJ Brown gets 109 receiving yards, like you said. He was good. When he's playing, this offense is great. Devontae Smith was quiet. It's really just this Cowboys team as a whole is just bad. Cooper Rush is not a good quarterback. Trey Lance is not good, unfortunately. And they have no run game. Still couldn't get 100 rushing yards. Rico Dowdle only gets 53. No Dak for the rest of the season with that surgery to his hip or whatever. So that's just really sad and just a massive disappointment if you're a Cowboys fan with the expectations you had going into the season. CeeDee Lamb as well, kind of surprisingly played this game. Maybe he shouldn't have. He only gets 6 catches for 20 yards. The sun, which somehow is still a problem for the Cowboys and that stadium in Jerry World is. I don't understand how they don't put up the curtains. Jerry said it's not an issue. They know where the sun's going to be, so they have no reason to put curtains up. But I only ever see it affect the Cowboys somehow. So just makes no sense. And Cowboys have been on the dead list for a while, but they are dead.
Yeah, and with the Jets losing here 31-6 against the Cardinals, we can update the list with the Jets being added now officially. So we still have Pats, Browns, Titans, Jags, Raiders, Panthers, Giants, Saints, Dolphins, Cowboys, and the two new additions this week. I bet you can guess who they are. I gave you one.
You're gonna say the Colts.
No, they're still on maybe.
Oh,
They're still on maybe. Jets and
okay,
who
wait.
else?
Oh, Jets and
It's
another
crazy,
dead
bro.
team. Um, what other team could have died? I mean, the Cowboys were already dead, right?
Yes, Cowboys were dead.
The Jets. Oh, Bears.
Yeah, Bears are the last team. So
Yeah.
we have an extended list here in the maybes. The Colts are the first team on the maybe. If they lose to the Jets next week, I think they make
Yeah.
that list. Seattle, we'll see how they look coming out of the bye. And then the Bengals, as they continue to fight for their lives here, if they lose another one, they'll probably be on there as well. So the Cardinals, though, they've played desperate teams now back to back weeks with the Jets and the Bears, the two newest additions to this list, and the Cardinals added both of them there. They won both those games really easily. It's tough, sometimes tough to win when you're playing against a team whose back is completely against the wall and you're sitting in this like 4-4 purgatory, and they win these two games handedly. The Cardinals are 3-0 since Black Ops 6 dropped, so this is a significant increase in their production with those games dropping in the middle of the season. So that was huge for them. Cardinals have had 6 total drives in this game. They scored on 5 of those drives. They were 4 for 5 in the red zone versus 0 for 3 in the red zone for the Jets was completely the difference in this game. The Jets looked back to earth on offense against after looking okay against this Houston defense last week, who's pretty solid. But the Cardinals defense is red hot right now. They're playing great ball. They're buzzing all around. Cardinals maintain a lead in the West now, and they're playing like a playoff team. The biggest question, though, for them is are they going to be able to be this consistently? If they can be what they have been the past few weeks consistently, they absolutely can win the West, and they absolutely can go win a playoff game. But can they? That's the question.
Yeah, can they? Sitting at 6-4 now, they are looking in pretty good shape. Kyler Murray goes 22 for 24 in this game, completing 91% of his passes, 266 yards, adds 2 rushing touchdowns to go along with his 1 passing touchdown. He seems to understand it now. The Cardinals had 11 different players with at least 10 yards from scrimmage. They dominated this Jets defense that has a lot of talent. Jonathan Gannon has done a great job. They had a little bit of a rough start to the season, but they've gotten going. Marvin Harrison has been good recently, 5 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown receiving for him. James Conner has been phenomenal for his Cardinals team since he got there. He was great in the receiving game here. For the Jets, I thought maybe this team had finally figured it out. Devontae Adams had said after last game, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take a while, but we're ready. This offense was abysmal in this game, terrible. They had 10 days to prepare for this game and just got out-coached, out everything, outplayed. I think it was a terrible decision to fire Saleh, and it's really continuing to hurt him. I think you should have stayed with Saleh the rest of the season and moved on from him after season. But who knows if this is Rodgers' last season, and if he does call it quits after this season, you are in. I don't know what you do as a franchise, but they need Rodgers to at least try for one more year. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback at this point in his career, but it's better than what any of the other options probably are. Maybe
Be
Sam
back again.
Darnold
Yeah,
being back.
that would be crazy. I would actually love to see that. But moving on here to our final game Sunday Night Football, with the Lions beating the Texans 26-23. Lions played their worst game of the season and they won on the road versus a good team. That is the mark of a good team. They continue to do all the things that a good team does. They blow bad teams out. They could win the games where they don't play great. They play great in prime time. They play great against their opponents that have good records. They continue to do those things that they've done all year. Goff throws 5 interceptions in this game, and I know there's going to be a ton of box score watchers that didn't watch this game and are going to bring up the Goff 5 interception game, which is crazy to see on a stat sheet. I get it, but 2 of those picks were his fault. The 2 in the second half were his fault. The 3 in the first half were not. One of them was just a great play by Petrie and a ball that was tipped at the line, like it's batted and picked off. The other one is what was going to be an incomplete pass, and then it bounces off like a couple of linemen into a linebacker or a couple D linemen into the linebacker for the Texans' hands, and then the third one was on a Hail Mary. So it's really hard to say that all those picks are his fault. He did not play great in this game at all. The O line didn't play great either. No Decker really hurt this O line. You had to move Skipper over to left tackle, and I love Skipper. I think he's a good extra O lineman, but he does not have the athleticism to play that left tackle position that Taylor Decker has. And because of that, the whole offense didn't look right. They weren't really able to run the ball well or get yards on first down. That's very rare for them on a consistent basis. They're usually getting 4, 5, 6, 7 yards on first down, and that's why their offense is so lethal because then they have the world to work with on second and third every single time. And they were getting 1 yard, 2 yards, 0 yards on first down today and that or yesterday, and that really hurt them. But the Lions defense was absolutely stellar all game. Gave up just 23 points in this one. Would have been less if it wasn't for the offense turning it over so often, and they still only give up 23. 4 sacks on Stroud in this game. The pressure wasn't always there. There was no Zadarius Smith. He was on the sidelines coaching the guys up, but he'll be there next week. It was supposed to be his bye this week with the Browns, so he'll be back and healthy next week for them. They're going to need him desperately. 2 interceptions for CJ Stroud. Well, yeah, for CJ Stroud, but both from Carlton Davis, who made 2 great plays. He was phenomenal. I've been saying he's one of the better corners in the league this season, and he's starting to prove it now with the interceptions. Those were the first picks from a Lions corner all year, though, and that and they still are at the top of the league in total interceptions because Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch have been so good. Brian Branch is the best safety in football. All the stats back it up. Look at all of his coverage metrics. Look at all of his grades, his batted balls. He's all over the place. He's been phenomenal. He's one of the best tackling safeties, one of the best tackling DBs in the league, and I just can't sing his praises enough for a second round pick too. They were completely Houston was completely shut out in the second half of this game. Lions defense completely eliminated Houston's run game. Just 25 carries for 46 yards for Joe Mixon. The Lions defense was great. I'll keep singing the praises of Aaron Glenn. He's had a phenomenal year now that he has good personnel. Jake Bates goes and makes a 58-yarder to make it a one-score game, and hits a 52-yarder to win it. Both barely went in, but that doesn't matter. They went in the goalpost. Lions are now 9-1 in night games under Dan Campbell. The one loss was the Brad Allen Dallas game. So if it wasn't for an absolutely completely botched call, they'd be 10-0 after 7 p.m. with Dan Campbell. They've been great in those games. Houston really came out hot in the first half, but they started to look like their past few weeks in the second half, where their offense just hasn't looked right. They haven't been able to get anything going. A ton of punts and turnovers. Texans have to figure it out offensively. Defensively, they're playing super, super good, but the offense just hasn't looked good in a month. Texans will be fine, though. They have the 26th remaining strength of schedule, so they still are going to win this division. They're still going to get a high seed in the AFC. The Lions, on the other end, have the 11th remaining strength of schedule, so that's dropping by the week. But luckily for them, they get Jags, Colts, Bears next 3. I think they should easily win those 3 games, and then you're sitting at 11-1 going into that final 5-game stretch of the season. So I feel great about the Lions. They played like shit, but they still won against a great team on the road. So
Yeah, they played very bad in the first half, but Golf stayed calm. The offense stayed calm. Golf goes 6 for 8 in the fourth quarter with 79 yards. Gets a touchdown to Amon-Ra, who continues. I think it's like a streak of 7 straight games with a touchdown, something like that. He's been great. Jake Bates hits the 2 field goals, barely squeaks them in. Just what a win for the Lions. It was a gutsy, gritty win. They treaded water long enough to drown the opponent in this game. Dan Campbell, this was just what you kind of expect to see at this point. Listening to how Dan Campbell talks, this is exactly what he wants his team to do.
they were getting knocked down
If they're
and
struggling.
biting kneecaps off on the way
Yeah,
back up.
exactly. The halftime interview was hilarious that he says the defense needs to get turnovers. And while they're basically don't even have the game on the screen, the Lions defense gets an interception, big turnover. Carlton Davis, like you said, he was great in this game. For the Texans, CJ Stroud continues to struggle a little bit. Touchdown and 2 picks. Just hasn't been good without Nico Collins, really, to be honest. It's really showing how big of a weapon Nico Collins is for this offense, how important he is. The defense forced the Lions into 5 interceptions, and this Texans offense was still unable to win the game and only put up 23 points. It was nice to see John Mechie have his best game as a pro so far, 5 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown after everything he's been through with leukemia or cancer. So good for him. But this Texans offense needs to be better. Joe Mixon has a quiet game. We haven't seen that too much of him. He gets a touchdown, but only 46 yards on the ground and averaged 1.8 yards per carry. That is a season low for Joe Mixon. So their offensive struggles continue, but this Texans defense is very, very good, and they make opposing quarterbacks struggle and have pretty much their worst games of the season, as we saw that from Goff with that many interceptions. So they still have an easy path to the playoffs. It's not a question for them. It's just they would have liked to contend for that first seed, but I think they're too far out of it at this point.
Okay, we can move on now to our studs and duds for the week. My stud, even though he lost the game, I still got to give it to Jamar Chase, 264 on 11 catches, 3 touchdowns. He was able to get it done when he needed to, especially in those clutch moments. He had that big touchdown down the middle on that cover two in the fourth quarter, I believe. It was right after the Ravens drove down and scored, and then of course the Ravens scored again after that. But Jamar gets a touchdown that could have been the game-winning touchdown if they get that 2 point conversion. Unfortunately, he doesn't get it, but he's had a phenomenal year. I don't know, I don't have the exact stats offhand. I would assume he's having a better year than Justin Jefferson, and he's going to be up there for Offensive Player of the Year. Unfortunately, his record isn't going to be there.
Yeah, his record is not going to be there. That was going to be my pick, but I'll pivot and I'll go with Kyler Murray. Call of Duty's dropped and he's still putting up numbers. He's been very good, threw for 266 yards, gets a passing touchdown, adds 2 rushing touchdowns, and gets a win. And this Cardinals team is fighting for a playoff spot, which is something we didn't really expect going into this season, but here they are. So I'll go with Kyler Murray.
I wish we could see his like KD stats over the past few
Yeah.
years, like to see if his KD dropped when his stats went up with the in BL6. That would be hilarious to see. But
I do have an honorable mention, though. I should have said it. Chuba Hubbard's an honorable mention.
mhm.
He was great this week, as well as really quickly, randomly, Russell Okung, who got clowned a couple years ago, or I don't know how many years ago it was, 2 or 3, for taking his entire contract in Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
He took his $6.5 million in Bitcoin. It went down. Everyone was clowning and making fun of him. That 6.5 million has turned into 45 million. So shout out Russell Okung.
Are we sure he didn't sell?
I don't think so because it is Barstool Sports that posted it, but I would assume he still has it at this point.
OBJ too. OBJ did it too, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I think OBJ did that. Yeah, he might have done it.
A while ago. I think he did it with the Rams.
Yeah,
I think he did it with the Rams, and he's back in LA. Maybe he's gonna have a big game coming off the Bitcoin surge.
yeah. Shout out
But
Bitcoin.
yeah, my dud of the week here is just the Bears in general. Just put Bears on the graphic.
Wow,
Um,
back-to-back weeks.
and maybe like uh, hold on, put Bears on the graphic, and then in like a very very small parenthesis, put except a few pieces of the defense. End parenthesis. That's it. That's all I want on the graphic, and maybe even and DeAndre Swift, just because I feel like I need to get that in there. But you could just put just except a couple pieces on the defense.
Except a handful.
Yeah.
And Swift.
Yeah, and Swift. A handful of players on the defense. Bracket, not the secondary, and bracket plus Swift, end bracket or end parenthesis. Okay, I'm ranting now. My power even wants me to stop ranting. So
Okay, for my dud of the week, unfortunately, I have to go with Younghoe Koo, one of the best kickers in football. Missed way too many kicks, misses the game tying kick. You hate to see it from a guy of his talent, and he's been struggling a lot recently, but hopefully he's able to bounce back here and become back to the elite kicker that he's been his entire career. Just maybe he needs this dud of the week to really get going.
he'll bounce back. I have full faith in him. I think he's
believe
been a
so.
stud for us before.
Yeah, well,
I'm
kickers
almost
were
I'm almost
ones.
positive he's been a stud. So yeah, so he gets that little motivation. But that'll about do it for this episode of the Engage 8 podcast, where my powers went out 5 times. Unironically, we will be back on Wednesday or Thursday, or no, Wednesday. We will be back on Wednesday to discuss the Monday Night Football game that we've teased between the Dolphins and the Rams, as well as talking about this past week in college football and getting you ready for Week 11 of the NFL season. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe to the video and the podcast. Hit all the links in the description for all of our socials, Spotify, TikTok, Twitter, and all that good stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next one.